Hi, everyone. You're listening to, I gotta get my cheat sheet, WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower here in the best city in the world, Northport, Florida. I'm your guest host, Vanessa Carusone, and I'm here with Commissioner Vice Mayor now, sorry.
That's quite all right.
Pete Emrich. And John's out on vacation, so I'll be doing this one and Monday's show. And we have been doing just a review of the commission meetings that are coming up next week. So next Tuesday at 10 a.m., which is May 11th, they will have a commission meeting. And so we'll just go through a few things that I kind of looked over and said, yeah, there'll probably be questions about that. And hopefully Vice Mayor can enlighten us on maybe some things that we have questions about. Just real quickly, I do want to go over something that took place last week that Vice Mayor is not going to be speaking about. It is the West Village group that is trying to de-annex the property. And I just want to say what an incredible job that commission did, as well as the mayor, in running that meeting, because it was a very difficult meeting. The role of being a judge, per se, is not an easy one, and it's not often used in this case. So I want to say that the commission, all of them, did an incredible job, specifically saving the motion at the last minute, Vice Mayor, that you did a great job. It's clear to me that it's ineligible for being de-annexed because of the way the law is written. It says that, if a property was eligible for annexation in the first place, it makes it ineligible for de-annexation. So between that and the unbelievable amount of impact that would have to the city, but what was not there was the impact that it would have to those who live in West Villages. And I think that that's something that when all of this is, maybe even as it goes through, that should be discussed. Because I think that people of West Villages, or now Welland Park, if they really understood the financial impact that it will have on them, it's not going to be cost savings. It's just not. So with that, we're going to move on to the commission. Anyways, is there anything you want to say, introducing anything? No?
Well, my major question today is what's going on in John's mind that he allows us on his show all by ourselves?
He's in Key West. He's not having anything in his mind. It's all in his hand.
Oh, plenty of sunscreen, John. Plenty of sunscreen. We'll treat your baby kindly.
He did send me a live Facebook. He was sending me some sort of FaceTime the other night, and he's at a concert with Carrie, and they're just jamming away. And I'm like, really? You got to send that? I'm like,
that wouldn't have happened to have been like last Thursday?
No, it was just a couple days ago.
Oh, okay.
Old Dominion and Kenny Chesney. I'm like, seriously, you got to rub that in while I'm here? But anyways, it was funny. We were laughing, but well, let's just get right into it. And,
I had my agenda briefing this morning, and basically what that is a briefing process to just give you a little parameters about what is on the upcoming agenda. Doesn't include all of the backup. So basically I got like sort of cliff notes to where now I go home, I go through all the backup over the weekend and then prepare myself for the meeting. So it's a process. I don't have all the answers right now.
No.
But I have some input on some things.
So
until I get into it a little bit further.
And let me just say that the last few agendas have been enormous. I mean, this one's not as bad as the last few, but wow, they've been pretty hefty and pretty big issues too.
Yeah, we've had a lot of stuff going on, and we're going to have a lot more stuff coming up. We've got this meeting right here has a few things to touch on. One of the main things is a ULDC.
Right.
We have asked to come up with a process and how do we want to do that. So I'm sure there's going to be some long conversations on that. But then down the road, talking about Watermelon Springs, talking about, we still got to be very conscious about the budget coming up. That's coming up very quick.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of different things. The Camoin study, we're going to be revisiting that again, which that has great impacts on the city. A lot of important stuff coming up here in the next few months.
Well, and you mentioned the Camoin study. What I did want to talk about is we have the 2 consent agenda items. One of them is the contract for the Left Coast Utilities Corp. And if I remember correctly, that was going to be just to fix the loops, or
Yes.
to create the loop system.
Correct.
But when I read the background information, it seems like they're also doing stub outs for water expansion. So, and it doesn't give you any area other than Hartsdale, which we knew about. I mean, that was the whole point of that discussion in the first place. But $400 and basically $13,000 for a total of $454,226 for this particular project to loop the dead end water lines. But then there's these additional stuff that they're not really, they say South Hartsdale, Cunliffe Road, and Totem Avenue. That's 3 areas, but I'd be curious to know if that's really that's a lot of money, man, a lot of money.
Right, and I think, and just by going through a little bit, I think there's 3 different, like you said, there's 3 different looping aspects of this, and that's going to help with the water flow systems out there. I haven't looked at the stub outs or anything. I was unaware of that, but I will be going through that.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you this one so that you can have it where I highlighted it. But, like I said, I remember the Hartsdale, and I remember a few others where we needed to complete the loop because of poor quality water, and it was going to prevent them from having to go and open up these the fire hydrants in order to get the flow. Which I understood that completely, but then when I read the stub outs for future water main, I went, ooh, what?
Yeah,
what is that?
but you got to look at it too. What like I said, I haven't done the backup, so let's try and predict the future. What if now's the best time to put them in while you're digging, anyways?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Exactly.
It doesn't mean that you're putting mandatory hookups because you're still not in front of the customer's house. You're preparing for the future, so why wouldn't you put the stub outs in now while you're digging? Because now you got a place to go to.
And that might be the explanation.
Right, and then you come up with your design plan and everything. Well, we're coming off of this T to say here to go this way and this way. It could be a little bit of proper planning.
It could be.
Could be. I mean, I try to look at the positives, but like I said, I haven't gone into the meat and potatoes of it.
And I'm curious, I just want to make sure that this actually is coming from utilities and not the general fund, because that's kind of a, we're talking about nearly $500,000. So let's just make sure it's coming from the right area.
Oh, absolutely. and most of those projects do, and you know the history has that. I don't see any reason why they would dip over to the general fund for this project. But I'm just saying, it's a good question.
But you never know.
Right, you never know.
The other one that's going to be a hot topic. I mean, I see it all over Facebook where they're going to come and not necessarily storm the Capitol, but be there in force. Is the whole approving the CDM Smith study for the potable reuse feasibility study to explore reclaimed water for potable use. Now, I know that this is being done pretty much all over the state of Florida. right?
Right.
The whole trying to look at reclaimed water and how do we create a new water supply. And my biggest crux is that we annex that property that's now Orange Hammock and owned by the state for new water supply. So we've got to do something. Any insight into that?
Well, this one here, and this is what I was told today, and again, I gotta go through, but this is actually to accept a grant to go ahead, and what the grant is to offset the cost. It's a 50-50 grant, so it would be 125 from the grant and 125 from us to complete this study, because I believe we talked about this very study before at the $2.5 million, or the $250,000,
Right.
and I was opposed to it because I didn't think right now was a good time to do it. Maybe over some time, yes. Now that we have a grant in place, I'm not going to try and tell that I'm still very excited about this plan, but we'll have a discussion up there to see if it's going to move forward or not. Because, we may be able to wait on something like this, because it's still out of our pocket.
Right.
Our pocket would be $125,000. We've got a lot of other things out there that we need to take care of that this may be able to wait on.
And again, then the magic question, where is that 125 coming from?
Correct. Could we be spending that? Let's just say that 125,000 could be a percentage of Price Boulevard.
Well,
or wherever.
Right,
you know what I'm
right.
saying?
If it's coming from utilities, I would think you're right. I mean, it could be used to help utilities expansion in the Price Boulevard project portion of it.
Correct.
Or it could be part of what goes towards this project for the looping system. I mean, it can be used anywhere.
Right. And again, I hate saying that I haven't gone through the backup, but I've had 3 hours. So
I know.
It's like,
I know. This is all.
I'm not sure if this is going to be. It may be a project that we need to do, and that's where the board will get together and we'll. They'll talk to us about it, or.
That's a great question. I wonder if it's a grant, if it has to come from utilities. I mean, I would think so, because it's a utility project.
Well, and this one for sure is, how we know ahead of time when an item has been pulled for discussion. This item has been pulled.
Right.
And it will be discussed in length throughout the meeting. So that's a given. We are going to talk about this.
Do you know if the B was pulled, the one about?
Not yet.
I don't think so.
But you still have till noon on Monday, I believe, to pull.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like I said, I've had my briefing. I haven't looked at the backup, but now you and I are talking. So you're asking questions.
You know me, man.
I could call up, if I see fit, I can call up Monday morning and say, pull this item for me. I want to talk about it.
Right.
So that it's good to talk about these things, but we can't talk as a commission. But since you're no longer there, look at all that stuff.
I'm telling you, it's definitely been different. It's been different. You still get questions, you still get people thinking you're still there, and it's like,
well, you've always been there.
Yeah, true. I feel like I definitely gained some age from it. Yeah.
I'm not even touching that one.
Yeah, good idea. Anyway, so now we move on to the ordinances, public hearings, and the public hearing on the second reading for West Villages, they're going to change.
That's quasi judicial.
Okay, you can't talk.
I'm not talking about it. You can talk about it if you
Right.
want, but I'm not talking about that.
Right, so quasi judicial, let's just kind of go through that process. Means that it's looked at in light like a court case, like a specific court hearing. And so everything you discuss on items that are quasi-judicial need to be disclosed, and it needs to be fair and impartial when you make your decision. So quasi-judicial is essentially means that when that particular subject comes up before the commission, they have to take the actual information, or in this case, there'll be sworn statements and evidence or testimony presented, And that's what they're supposed to be basing their decision off of, not anything that came out from this ex parte communications throughout. But if you disclose it, then you're okay. But point is that it's a little bit more ironclad, and it has a little bit more legality to it versus just a regular hearing. So
Yeah, and even throughout my agenda briefings, we bypass anything quasi-judicial.
really,
Yeah, I don't want to talk about them in the briefings.
wow.
Because I'll do my backup and I listen to the case. You're supposed to be objective.
You're right. You're
So-
absolutely right.
So I'm not going to be tainted by, well,
Mhm.
let's just say assistant city manager goes, well, one of those things.
Mhm.
All right, what's in his mind?
Right,
You know,
right,
and
right.
so just leave it all open door policy at the time,
Which is a great way to look at it
Mhm.
and to think about it, because it can get you.
Anything could,
It can
and
get you
any
in a
little
bit
bit,
of trouble in the end. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, so we'll move on away from that and get to citywide fees. Now, I know you haven't had a chance to look at it, but I'm going to tell you,
You jumped a long way, didn't you?
Did
Where
I?
you at?
I have notes,
Uh,
no joke, like all over, and
yeah, you went to general business 6C. We were in the 5s.
okay, well, let's go back to the five.
Well, if you don't want to talk about any more 5s, we can go to 6s.
So 5, and this is kind of weird because it's like 5AA. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some
Yeah.
misprint going on
There's a
this.
5A and then a 5A.
Yeah,
But on to the first reading. So we have an ordinance amending the code for violations to delete the reference for fees of parking violations. And this is just a cleanup,
it's
right?
a cleanup. Yeah, it's a cleanup. It's the way there's two different types of things. It's going to be like over here and over here. It's a policy type thing,
Mhm.
and it's just cleanup because it's going to go under two different things. That's what they're going to explain to us on why they did this.
And it's kind of like the ULDC, the Unified Land Development Code, like in some cases, it actually mirrors what's being said in the city code, the administrative code. And so,
Right, and that's why some's going to be under administrative and some's going to be over here. But I don't know how many people have gotten parking tickets in Northport.
no, that's one ticket I didn't get.
I haven't gotten one of those either, but
Amazing.
I don't know if there's actually anybody out there that's gotten one. I don't know if there's.
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, I think that's a cleanup.
Yeah.
And then the other one is that related to inventory and disposal. This one, I gotta tell you, I'm just gonna say it. I don't like it. I don't like the way it's written. I know that what the intent is to create some sort of administrative policy that says, this is the process of selling X items. This is the process for giving away X items. But I have to tell you, there is an awful lot of city manager power in here. At least as far as the notes that were in the backup.
Right. And we discussed that a little bit, and it's like we need to figure out what we want to do with some of our properties. Like some of them, we may want to, do we want to trade to other people? You were on some of those meetings back in the day, and we do own a few commercial spots.
Mhm.
We have had interest on those commercial spots. So does Northport want to sell those
But
commercial
see, we
spots?
already had that conversation, and
But it's just going through that, but they have to have a process on, do we want to do this? And then if we do, how do we do it?
right, and my point is that we already discussed it. We said we don't want to sell it other than to maybe the independent persons who are next to it. But again, I can't understand why you would sell any of the property if you're going to use it as a land.
This is not a proposal to sell. This is a proposal to set up a system if we decided to.
Right.
So we're not talking about, do we want to sell X property? No, that's not part of this.
Well, all I can say is I'm going to give you this because
Thanks, Mom.
you're right, because there is a lot of power, and I get that when it comes to real estate, you have to be very careful about having these conversations, up front in public. But in the same token, you can't just go out and say, okay, city manager, it is within your jurisdiction to choose what parcel to sell or not sell, to choose who you're going to hire for an appraiser or appoint, without having these discussions with the commission. So, and the donation part, there needs to be a little bit more information on what if you want to donate property to someone. This is going into the donation part of it
Being
coming
donated,
to you.
because we've had multiple donations of
But
properties.
remember, social service building, some of the other buildings that we have that are very important to this community. The city actually worked out with other property owners and donated pieces of land so that those buildings could actually get built, and
Sure.
So I think you need to look at it on both ways. Now we have a question from Chuck English. Abandon the lot lines of all parks. They cannot be sold or developed at the whim of the city manager. Well, I think that's all automatically done when it comes to parks, but this is about if there's additional, like the city has additional lots. They have some lands, and the land has always been put in a land bank, so that say someone is on the Myakkahatchee environmental area, and we want that property
We want to do a lot swap.
right, and you just swap.
Right.
You swap.
I slotted them.
Yeah. Anyways, I think that particular issue may offer a long conversation because there's some things that really aren't being addressed, and yet a lot of power being given off to city manager, really. And then we get into another ordinance about the non-district budget, and we're talking about mowers and what's the other thing? I know I printed that one up. But my point is that this one has a John Deere mower, some other stuff, miscellaneous stuff, but this is coming from road and drainage, right? Like this is going to be because there's a fund balance of $201,000+ for a Mower Max tractor. And why is it coming out of the general fund if this is going to be a road and drainage project? I am under the assumption that this has to do with the Parks and Recs turnover. But I thought that there was going to be some sort of conversation between the county and the city about some of that.
Well, where are you getting that it's coming out of the general fund? Because right here in black and white that I'm reading, it's coming from the road and drainage fund balance.
Thank you. Transferring road and drainage district fund balance. Okay. That is the question. I didn't see that part. I was reading the backup part.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying.
But one of them's police department, so some of it is, some of it's not.
Right, but it's specific here. The mower's 150,000 of your 200,000.
Okay.
So your others is 50,000
probably
of miscellaneous stuff.
Yep. Well, the miscellaneous. All right, so we're talking about the police department's unbelievable maxed out space, and I guess they're gonna go to renting.
Yes, that's been
right?
discussed along the ways.
And now they're going to plan the design for some sort of a crime scene and property evidence location, hopefully. because they're operating at 185% right now, above capacity.
Right, and I think this is just another way to alleviate some of the room over there, because they've proposed a new police station, this, that, and the other, but then again, they were pushed back and said, well, maybe you need to look at satellite offices and stuff like that throughout the community because of the price tags,
Didn't we have that? I thought that we had said, okay, take the money that you're gonna need that you requested for leasing and use that towards something like this. I could have sworn we did that, but maybe.
But we also had conversations about, I think it was like vendors and storage.
Yeah, but we were talking about how that was gonna be an outrageous amount of money, so.
Correct, and that's what I'm saying. So this might be what they're looking at. So, okay, if it's gonna be X amount to build, we need to know how we're, how studies and plans and all that stuff goes. They gotta have a conceptual drawing and how much is this gonna cost and where are we gonna put it, so.
And let's just be clear for those who are listening is that, studies are not something that the commission or the city wants to do or likes to do. I think it's more about they have to do it in most cases because it's about justification. It's about making sure that your money, and in some cases it's legally essential, like most of our fees, our district fees and stuff. So and
the key about doing a study is, if you're going to do a study, I hate doing studies and then just say, oh no, we didn't like the study, just put it on the shelf. That's wasted money.
Right.
Make damn sure that this is a project that you're really interested in going forward with, because it does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's the start of getting the ball rolling. Okay, let's do this study. Let's bring it back and see what works. You can always cancel it, but at least you have all the knowledge now.
Yeah, and that's why, I am 100% behind the police department's,
Oh, they need space somewhere.
They're just really up against the wall right now.
I have offered them Algol Hall at least a dozen times and they haven't bid on it yet.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll get to that. Because Algol Hall is actually on your fee schedule. They want to, because we're gonna leave the big topic ULDC until later, but we're talking about citywide fees and changing some of those citywide fees. And I don't know what kind of discussion you had, but
now this is the once a year thing to where all the fees, you look at them, if they need adjustments here, there, and the other. And I go, I understand that. Again, I haven't been in the backup.
Well, let me tell you, they're going from, they're going to do.
These are proposals.
Yes. Specialty camps, it seems like they're going to get rid of. And, they're going to be anywhere from $70 to $100 a week for kids per person. And I think they're 2-week camps. So, or 1-week camps. $100 per kid per week.
But again, what was the cost last year for these camps?
Well,
is it being adjusted?
It was $70 last year.
Okay, so it's being adjusted by maybe $30.
Yeah.
So then you get into the what's and whys. Why has it adjusted? Is it strictly because of labor? Is it because some of the stuff you supply has gone up? And then you go through there. But then how much is a daycare out there? This is something that you can get your child involved in. And we did this with our kids. It was a lot cheaper back then, but it was willing to spend that $50 so your kid could have a special week doing something.
Well, maybe it's time to see the other camps in the area and
correct.
See what they're,
and compare.
Maybe this is a perfect example of something we need to get out of.
And maybe that's true. And this is something that, as far as I know, every single camp has been booked solid and there's been waiting lists every year. So people are enjoying them. And if it is to cover their costs, maybe they have a pizza day now that maybe costs money to feed the kids or something. I don't know what they do over there, but maybe costs need adjusted.
There is a little note here that says that there's a removal of 10-week discount due to changing school schedule and reduced summer duration. So because school is being let out later here in Sarasota County only, but yet going back August 10th,
Same time. So
there's a shorter window for the summer camp, and so maybe it's that you're not going to have that extra week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of revenue.
And could be because instead of putting on 5 camps, you're putting on 2 or 3. Yeah,
I don't know.
But still, we're not in it to make a profit, so
you're not supposed to be.
But it should be, adjusted according to the time and expenses of that week, each week on an individual basis.
Well, there's also a huge increase. I shouldn't say huge. I should look at the numbers first. But there's an increase in the rentals for the aquatic center for like birthday parties and stuff. So just you might want to take a look at that.
And with the aquatic center, just keep in mind about this too. We really didn't have that much to go on by COVID.
And we still don't, yeah.
And we still don't have proper numbers, but maybe we've had some parties and found out that the city has actually come up short by putting these on. So it's an adjustment to maybe make up those means. Again, we'll have those discussions.
Well, and I'm just going to call BS because, you're talking about the splash pad and half pavilion, and if it's open at the same time and you're basically just renting out a pavilion. Now, if you're shutting everything down, I'm going to say, yeah, you should charge a good amount of money. But to rent a pavilion, because I was going to do it last year, then COVID hit, it was like $60. And I'm like, that's fantastic. Sign me up. I've got 7 kids and, maybe 10 kids and so many adults. And I think it was even going to work out to, because I think you still had to pay admission. So it was maybe $100 some.
Right.
And I thought that's fantastic. We'll do that, but they shut down. The number one complaint I get about Aquatic Center is the hours not being as long or open at the times that the working class would like to go. So didn't they just change those hours?
Yeah, I think they're open later on in the evenings
Till
now
7?
and opened up a little bit later in the morning. Because of the fact is, and this is what was explained to us, it has to deal with the lifeguards, the amount of lifeguards, what we have on staff, and how to properly use those lifeguards throughout the week and throughout the hours. It minimizes our hours unless we hire a lot more people, which may not be feasible because we're not making any money. So we got to wait till we're making a little bit of money to start talking about expanding different things. So.
Oh yeah, no, and I think that you could make money if you expanded the hours, but
but you gotta have the staff there.
Well, that's the problem is you don't have the staff, but again, it's a chicken before the egg.
Right.
Which one? And honestly, this has been the worst year to really make a determination on whether this.
I was just going to say that it's a work as you go project,
right.
And we're going to learn the mistakes as we go.
Absolutely.
When the sun's up, longer, stay open longer. When the sun drops,
I know that I got some numbers from Parks about, the costs. Well, it says budget, but the total operating expenditures, but we're only 58% through the fiscal year. So we still have 42% left. So any numbers we get now are pretty much just, guesses because we don't know. Summer's coming. It's going to be the biggest.
And it's busy over there
Yeah.
already. So we're on an upsweep, and by no means am I saying, yes, the Aquatic Center is going to make money this year. What I'm saying is after all this stagnant and the stalling, we're at a point to where we're now going to actually get some solid numbers because you got the summer coming up. They've already said that we've had so many people in there so far enjoying it.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be a busy season, and we'll see what those numbers are. And then now can we expect this next year? And we can start learning what's actually.
I think we will. Yeah, I think it's only going to get better.
We never had this last year with COVID.
Mm-mm.
It was our first year, and it's like, how can we judge?
No, you can't. And to that degree, just so you know, when we talked about the Aquatic Center back in 2009, because people believe this just came up in 2016, and it did not. It was 2009 and 8 and 10. We had a huge study. We actually prepped the property for it.
I was working with the city at the
Yeah.
time, and we had all the utility stuff out when we built the
done.
Morgan Center.
And then finally we got to finish it in 2016. So to think that it just came up out of nowhere is not true.
Right, but you got to remember though, back in that day, it was for a pool. It wasn't for an aquatic.
No, it was for
an aquatic center, but it wasn't with the design that actually came out.
Pretty close. I mean,
Well,
you had a lazy river, you had a slide, and you had the pool. It was a small pool.
Right, but it wasn't
Lots
as
smaller.
extravagant as what they got, which is fine. I'm just saying. There was an
wasn't-
aquatic center. I didn't mean to say not,
Yeah.
but it was mostly a pool with a few amenities.
Yeah, the splash pad, I don't remember. I do. I mean, a
And
lot.
back
of
then, I don't even think we were talking competition
No,
style pool.
no, it was
It was just more of a recreational style pool. And then it grew from there into, well, if we're gonna build it, let's make something to where swim teams can use. And it sort of morphed from there all the way up to what we have now.
Well, I do remember us talking about the high school competition with the pool, but I think that at the time when we talked about in 09,
It was back then, it was training because the
because
regular
we
pool,
had-
they were going in there, and according to some of the swimmers, they were getting like those low polar shocks because through the water from the lights or whatever, because it was failing way back
Yeah.
when, and they said, well, maybe we could do something here, and then then, like I said, it just morphed all the way.
And
to what it
another
is now.
example of how Sarasota County was supposed to be watching the pool and the amenities that needed upgrading, and Charlotte's YMCA, which is no longer in existence, and failed on every aspect right there. But that's a whole other deal. So you'll be happy to hear that they're also going to add a charge per hour for the Al-Gall Center classrooms use. That's if the pending repairs of facility maintenance.
Well, the last time we rented a classroom out over there,
Are they alive?
I think that building's been shut and there's been no entrance in quite some time. Except for maybe inspecting it, yes.
That really is horrible. But anyway, that's.
I mean, I offered it, like I said, hey, look at it this way. We can get Deputy Chief Morales and Chief Garrison, and that's where their admin offices could be. I've asked them quite a few times. And
I don't think
you don't think they wouldn't like
see
that?
our liability or insurance really liking that too much. So no, Risk would have a stroke. But they're going to remove a place in the Morgan Community Center, the conference room. That's going to be removed. I guess they plan on repurposing it for office spaces. I don't know if they if they discussed that with you, but
Not yet, no.
that's what it says in here, and I don't know. So if you approve this, does this mean that now you've automatically approved office spaces in the Morgan Center for what? For parks? Like, for what?
Well, you know,
I don't know.
and the thing about it is we are taking on all the maintenance of the fields. We may need more office spaces for workers.
Good point.
You know,
Okay.
and
Yep. Yep.
And again, those
Yep.
office
Didn't think of
spaces
that.
at Morgan could be the admin signs to where we open up some field offices out there or whatever. So
Excellent point.
it could be for the other
Mhm.
workers coming on board when we take over all these parks.
Yeah, I didn't even.
It's a
think of that
possibility.
issue, but you're right. Yep, that could very well be it. One of the things that I do want to point out is $60 an hour for Garden of the Five Senses rental. Why?
Why would
How do you
why would you rent it?
justify that?
I just drive their park and hey, it's free.
$60 an hour. I'm like, how do you justify a open park with no facilities? Because this
No, you got
excludes the
facilities.
playground.
No, you can't reserve the playground. What are you gonna do? Kick kids off? No, this is my
I
playground.
know.
I'm the playground bully. Get off. I rented it. No, there's facilities there. There's bathrooms.
Okay, so you're paying $60.
No, I'm not justifying it whatsoever. That's why I said I would drive their park and take my chances.
Right?
But yeah, that's
Well, and
again, if they adjusted to that and nobody pays it, it's really not an adjustment.
no, but I just think of what Kiwanis was working on with, the city, and I would say that considering certain viewpoints that were brought up at the time, it may be something that Kiwanis and other nonprofits will just have to get together and do. But
Right.
$60 an hour, if you did it the say I do, come on, really? For what? How do you justify that charge? At 7 p.m. at night. You just
I really can't. You know.
so, and that's another thing. Like, there's no real.
But
discussion
again,
about
let's go back and see
nonprofit
how
discount.
many people have wanted that service. I don't know.
I bet you none until Kiwanis came through, and that's why this is being put in there.
And you know,
Yeah, I know.
I can give you a smart ass answer, but
Yes,
I'm not going to.
yes, I know.
But
The other thing is, I think that it was hard to read whether it was gonna be, they're gonna get away from the nonprofit discount, so I don't know.
well, and
This one's really gonna be,
that could be
needs to be
because
looked
with what was originated with the Kiwanis and the Say I Do It Again was they opened up a mechanism to where you can do a partnership. So
which always existed.
I understand
We
that,
always did it.
but instead of going the one route, you go the partnership.
Mhm.
You know, instead of having a discount, you're getting a discount because you're getting a partnership with the city.
Right.
So you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's like, oh no, we're going to pay a penny on this $99 bill.
Mhm.
You know, it's still a 50-50 type
Right.
solution, but how can you get a discount without that? You know, so just make a partnership and go and do something.
Right. But I don't know if 50-50 necessarily equates to
It's going to be according to expenses and
exactly.
what you're bringing to the table and what the partnership is from the city. It could be just using that land,
Mm-hmm.
and then the nonprofit brings everything in to do. You know what I'm saying? The city does nothing after just saying, "Here, you got the land."
Well, and that's the question. When they gave absolutes, on percentages, that with that partnership, I thought, oh boy, because what if Kiwanis is the one that brings all the volunteers, all the stuff, and then what did the city do? They set up some tables and chairs. You're going to give them, 50% of it for that? That's not fair. The city's not supposed to make money on these things.
Right.
And that money goes to the community. It goes to our kids. It goes to, help do the right thing, through the police department. I was floored at that whole conversation, but I know
I stayed
you
out
have
of
to stay out of it. I know. Marie, can you put that, thank you. Okay, so why don't we ask parents and kids to maintain the parks We can't afford more employees to maintain. Back in the day, that's the way the parks were maintained. Okay, so you're talking about the, what do they call that, where you would take on a park. We do it for the streets too.
Yeah, we had the,
I know, right? My brain's
damn it,
dead.
that you just, yeah.
Anyways, we did do that, and people failed to show up. And thank you, Adopt a Park.
Yeah,
Hello.
Adopt a Park, and, yeah, Adopt a Street,
Thank
yeah.
goodness. Yeah, I mean, I think the only person who was religiously making sure that they cleaned the Adopt a Street up was actually Alice White People for Trees. Everyone else, they would adopt the street or adopt the park, and it just failed.
When I was out of Public Works, we had some groups that would come through because we always kept the supplies out there, and Julie was sort of in charge.
Oh, yeah.
And they would schedule a day, they would come out and get their supplies. But it sort of, it went for a while, and then it just fizzled out, and you really didn't get a lot of response from the people.
And people are busy now. It's a different day and age. I mean, it's not like people can just work, 20 hours, even 40 hours in some cases. I know my kids, and they're constantly on the go. They're either going to football or wrestling, or, there's always something going on with the kids, and then working on top of it. And, trying to have somewhat of a social life is pretty much nil until they all grow up and get the heck out of your house. But, the point is, people are nonstop these days. It doesn't, it's not the same.
With that, a lot of people don't have a lot of that extra time. But let's just say the city just said, no, I'm sorry, we're abandoning all the parks. We're not going to mow them anymore. We're just leaving them alone. I guarantee you an individual or individuals within that neighborhood would take care of that park on their own because they would want to keep it up for their neighborhood. They may even have a little neighborhood mowing community to do it. It can be done.
Okay.
But while the city is doing it, it allows those people to live their lives differently to where they go, oh, the park's maintained, I don't have to worry about it. But I know for a fact that people would probably chip in and take care of it.
Well, I mean, it's definitely worth looking at. Let's put it that way. Like Mr. Carper says, if you want to play baseball, it's not taxpayers' responsibility to mow the grass. Well, actually, when you're talking about larger parks like baseball, football, those parks, they have user agreements that'll be in place where the organized association, be it baseball or football, they pay. They pay dearly for it. So it does get paid to a certain degree, but we're talking about more like pocket parks and neighborhood parks.
The fields are different because you got all the different leagues that go through there, their sponsorships there,
And you have to have professionals with some of those fields. But
correct.
We need to move on because we're like really getting
close.
It's
just like the Huskies had their own building and they built it themselves.
The
Mustangs, sorry.
Yeah.
I know it was one of the two and I apologize. But yeah, they built it for themselves as their own concession stand.
Yeah. I remember that.
Okay, go ahead, move on.
Okay. Last item about this fee thing. The fee thing. We built that aquatic center for project graduation to come. The whole reason why we had the aquatic center and Morgan Center together was that project graduation could be held at that facility, because we were always getting the YMCA for free for Northport High School students. We really need to find a way that once a year, project graduation is held there for free, some way, somehow, because that was the whole point of the conversation and how it all started back in the early 2000s. So.
Well, and looking through that process real quickly, because I understand what you're saying. Man, maybe we need to go out and look for sponsorships and stuff like that to help cover the costs of those areas. And then we have the project graduation. It's going to have to be a city community effort,
Which it is already.
Because I can't see, and you'll have a lot of people saying, well, now Northport's just putting on a party. The taxpayers are putting on a party for project graduation. So you have a partnership with all the costs taken care of. you know, if
We have,
the cost factor is $1,000 for that for the evening, that gets paid for by the
well,
sponsorship.
and let me just say, let me be clear that Parks and Recs has been fantastic with Project Graduation this year. And they gave them, you know, they allowed them to use the discount that's available
Right.
to them. But it can only be for 4 hours because of the cost.
Right.
And so
Maybe we can build on
there's got
this.
to be a way to create something where they can use the sleepover portion at the Morgan Center. I know that when we did it at the Y for years, there was only a certain amount of time they got in that pool. And maybe that's how you stop it. You know, okay, you've got X amount of hours at Aquatic Center, done, back to the Morgan Center. So
Right, and then you have your evening festivities
right,
there.
and mind you that nobody has talked to me about this, that they want this next year, blah, blah, blah. All I can say is that this is the point and how the discussion started on Morgan Center and the Aquatic Center being tied together. So I think it would behoove us to make sure that we keep that in our heads from here on out, because these they're just, you know, the community keeps getting hit all the time for money. Okay, ULDC.
And time's up.
I know, right? We really only have a few more minutes, but wow.
Let me I understand. I completely understand, but here's the deal. If you go into, and I would suggest, if everybody is concerned with the ULDC, is to go in and look at the backup. Mm-hmm. I've already looked at this. I've looked at it before.
Oh, sure. You looked at this one.
I looked at this one, but I also looked at it before because we've sort of had these conversations, right, because we told him, we told Interim Yarborough that mm-hmm. we wanted a plan going forward. This is the finalization of bringing the different options back about this plan.
Right.
Do we hire a outside manager to take over on this?
Absolutely.
I didn't ask for your opinion.
Absolutely.
Do we go ahead and there's a proposal in here of taking this employee over here, and then what you do is you're bringing this employee up here. You're making all sorts of acting individuals that may or may not know that job description being put into a job, and then still running the city. So, but what that's going to cost is everybody's going to get out of title pay because they're going to have, you know, a promotion mm-hmm. because they're doing the job out of their title. You're switching everybody around. You're creating a big mess. Or do you just bite the bullet and have a project manager come in? And that's a temporary employee. The good part about that is you don't know, it's all negotiable on numbers, on how you bring the person is. But the last time that we were up there discussing this, Nicole had said it's almost complete.
Yes,
there's a lot of grammatical errors
mm-hmm.
which we knew about, and that's why we put a stop on it. They said it's almost complete. There may only be like 1 or 2 chapters left.
Right. And I still think that hiring someone, because to have someone that's now working their butt off, you know, Monica, like she can't possibly do anymore.
Well, no, this is, if you hired an outside individual, you've got to
hire someone else to take her responsibility.
You've got dedication to the project, like what you're saying.
Absolutely.
That's their single focus.
Yep.
And that's what we need.
So
but moving all these other people around is going to end up costing you the same thing, and it's going to be one huge
we're running out of time. Poor Marie's going, hey, yo. I agree. I think that ultimately that if you moved and shifted all these people from the department, it's going to cost you more in the long run.
And it's going to cost you a lot of agony in the mind going forward with other departments getting stuffed up.
And P.S., I do believe that we need to support the homeless case manager for the police department.
And according to the thing today, the PD said that this is a welcoming to them. They're finding it as a huge need.
Help.
and a huge benefit.
Not only that, I'm sure there's gonna be grants available. to help
Yes,
you.
and with those
Yeah.
aspects, that's a lot easier to get grants on.
So listen, folks, it is now time to wrap this show up again. This is WKDW Radio, 97.5 and KDW.com. And we want to thank Pete for coming on last minute. It was kind of, I was going to wind up sitting here by myself and talking to myself. Not that
That's normal.
Yeah, pretty much. But thank you for coming on
Oh, no
and
problem.
giving us some kind of insight as to some of these things, because I don't have these conversations anymore.
Right.
It's nice. It's
And-
really
and-
nice.
And anytime I can help, I've told John, I think I'm on in June sometime coming up for my regular scheduled one, and hopefully there's not too much.
Right.
Stuff
Yeah.
going on.
Hopefully. Well, I don't know.
I
You know
know,
how they
it's-
stockpile those agendas
Yeah.
June and July because August is the break.
Yeah.
So just a heads up, when you see those agendas start piling up, that's why. But anyways, yeah. Good luck with the city manager search.
Yep, we're getting closer on that.
Yep.
I really hate to say you can stay on Facebook, but you got to get off the radio.
Okay. So
And that
thank
I'll
you
keep you on
all.
Facebook for a minute.
We're getting booted.
We're getting booted. Let me get off of the radio. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you Monday. All right, now I signed off, right?